a road opener is? Because I know a lot of people, uh, we put stuff, which is some helpful stuff out there if you want to know how to put things together and get structure to your work. Absolutely, it's some good stuff out there. And you probably seen the road opener online, the candle and everything like that. But what do you think a road opener means? You think it's just for finances? Do you think it's just for finances? What's the other work? All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I didn't know I was muted. I was really talking, didn't know I was muted. What do you think a road opener is? And we've seen it. We probably did some research on it. But we got to remember too, when we're doing our work, it's a frame of mind we have to be in. And if you're needing a road opener, what's going on in your life? So what do you think a road opener is? I want to hear it in the comments. Put it in the comments. I want to see what you guys say. If it's if it's work, put work. If it's money, put money. What do you think it's for? Or you think it's just gonna clear everything in your life? And you think it's just gonna magically you're gonna do that work and it's gonna magically clear everything in your life? I just want to hear you guys take on it. I got 3 people in here. I want to talk about this a lot more, and you'll probably take some really good information away from her. Probably all of us. But what do you think a raw opener is? Put it in the chat. I'll wait. No one knows. And if you follow this channel for a while, I'm sure you've done your research on raw opener if you've done raw opener work before. So again, I just want to know, please put it in the chat. If you're in here, then I know you're wanting to hear what I have to say. You want to engage. Otherwise, you would not be in here. And if you don't want to engage, why are you in here? Okay. Okay. So Ryan said, from my understanding and just recent research, I really think it's simply a ritual for your own abundance. Yep, it can be that too. Yep, it can be that too. You're right. It can be that too. So when I think about my abundance, I'm thinking, I got money stuff going on. I got something that got my money tied up. What has my money tied up? And really start asking questions. Is it a loan? Is it credit? Really start looking at things before you start doing the road opener. Okay. Um, that's what it is. That what pretty much everyone in here think what that's what a road opener is. It has a variety. Uh, you can do it for 2 or 3 other more reasons as well. But really be specific when you start doing road opener work. And the first thing you want to do, if there's any blocks, say if there's a loan on there, it's some other stuff that's really stopping your money, really blocking your money. If it's blocking your money like that, you probably gonna want to break that down. You're gonna have to break it up. And what do I mean that by that? Going back and doing a blockbuster and break it all up before you do it. What does that look like? That looks like you start getting down to business and looking at whatever's going on and start addressing it and breaking it down. Not just with your cat, because your workings is not nothing gonna do. It's gonna do support you. That's what it's gonna do. Support you in breaking it down. You'll have that extra. What I'm trying to say without you'll have that magical energy with you while you break that down, because you'll see these little miracles or synchronicities that makes it easier for you to break it down after you done did your blockbuster work, once you start addressing it. And that's for abundance. If there's something was going on with your money or something like that, that's what you will want to do first. You will want to do the blockbuster first. Okay. And of course, do your other rituals, which I talk about that more on Patreon. Other rituals to uh, help give it that extra cachet, because the rituals that you learn over there on Patreon, especially if you of African diaspora and you want to know more about hoodoo, I break that down a lot more over there. But you want to break that up first and start addressing that. Talk to your spirit guides and your ancestors and start breaking that down and addressing those things, and you'll find that you can break that up and then do the road opener. A lot of people miss that. They go straight to the road opener, and then they find out it can't be, the road is blocked. It's too big. You got a mountain in front of the road, so you need to break that up. You got to blow it up. So that's why you have to go with the blockbuster. So I think that we can miss that, and I have told so many people that want to do raw opener work. Um, I always say, hey, go do the blockbuster first, because you're gonna be, if it don't go your way, you want to make sure everything clear. Ain't no mountains or nothing like that in that road. You know, that's you can you want to open road, but you although you want to get that all that junk out the way too, if there's any there, especially when it comes to that road opening, if you want it to be successful. So if you're doing any road opener work, especially when it comes any road opener work, do the blockbuster first. Do the blockbuster first before you even do any road opener work. So another thing that uh there's another road opener that just focus on career. Say you can't get a job. I think these right here too, they are paired, they should be paired together as well. So you got one for career, and then you have the crown of success. I think those should be paired together. That's just my opinion. When you're doing any role opening for career. And again, we want to see too what's blocking the road. Okay. Uh, you know, if you can't get a career because you don't, you're lacking in a certain area, or you live, too far out, or you don't have the proper tools or whatever. Again, doing that blockbuster work, breaking it open, and then doing the role opener for your career. I can't emphasize enough the blockbuster work. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't think enough people talk about that. We talk about the role opener, but not the blockbuster, which is going to ensure that you have good results. Because what the blockbuster does, it thrusts you to start addressing these things that's messing with things. And then what the raw opener does, it whatever is left there, because you done broke everything up, you're gonna be able to go through everything else a lot smoother. Now, with the career as well, do the blockbuster. Another one I think people sleep on, and I don't think enough people do this. I really think should be the first road opener, or a work you do before you do any other road opener. Before you do any other road opener, and people miss this because again, when we a lot of us what's out there, what's popular, we see the one for career and we see the one for money, but we don't see the one for emotional healing. And again, if there's any blocks there that's preventing you from doing your magic or anything traumas that you haven't dealt with, you're gonna need a road opener on that. I bet a lot of people you didn't know that, did you? How many people in there knew? How many people in here knew of a road opener for emotional healing? Exactly. Exactly. Rain hit it right on the head with the blockbuster. Does it highlight your lacking within your own shadow work that is preventing a person? Rain hit it right on the head. It forces you to do the work. See, nobody talks about this part of the magic. They tell you to go in here and do this stuff, and then you go in here and do it, and you find out you need to go back to the first square where you was at first. You got to start from the beginning. But Ryan, she said that perfectly. She said that perfectly. Let me put that up there. She said that very perfectly. Yes, it means that. So, and I can't recommend the emotional road opener uh, enough, because again, you're gonna do that blockbuster. Once you start doing that blockbuster, you're gonna be clearing out a whole bunch of heavy trauma. Anything that's gonna mess with your self belief, the belief in yourself, the belief in your magic. See how this works? See how you shouldn't put the cart before the horse? You know, a lot of people putting the cart before the horse because it's a byproduct. Now, what I have noticed about shadow work, and I don't know if other spiritualists talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. But I've noticed the more you dive in, because shadow work is ancestral work. It is, because a lot of your shadow and the damage that was done to your inner child is going to come from your ancestors. It's going to come from the trauma and everything that was passed on by them. So once you start clearing out that trauma and doing a blockbuster in there, because that's what the blockbuster gonna do. It's gonna highlight all those things that's going on, and then, and I recommend doing a blockbuster, until you feel better. It's as long as you need it to. Some people say 7 days, but when it comes to workings like that, depending, because everybody is different, you might need to do, and with the blockbuster, I recommend a white bath. Get in there with a white bath with some coconut milk, some carnation milk, some rose oil, really soft, really try to heal that aura and clear out a lot of things with that coconut milk. Any negativity, any trauma stuck in the aura, it's going to clean that out. But I do recommend a lot, maybe doing a bath 3 days in a row, just doing that bath 3 days in a row while tending to your blockbuster candle. Why, well, if it's a candle or your blockbuster work, I don't know what you're going to do for your work. Everyone is different. Everybody works look different. But doing that in consecutive days, and getting all that out your aura. It may take, for me, I recommend doing it as long as you think you needed to do to get rid of the things that's going on with you, that's blocking you, blocking your emotional health. Because again, there is a road opener for emotional health, and I think that should be the very first one that gets done, because that's the root. That may be the root to everything. In my years of practice and doing tarot cards and have people to come in, come see me, it always goes back to a root problem, a root issue that the person has, that that's causing the problem. They may think it's it's just to say they come in for their child and their child is acting out and they want to blame everything on the child. No, let's see what's going on here because you are the child's parent, right? How is that relationship with you and the parents? So really seeing how identify how they parent and how they parent was. Again, we're going down to the root of it. And a lot of people don't want to they don't want to admit that. They don't want to look at that. But those are the core issues that can tamper with your work and your magic. I can't emphasize that enough when people can try to go past something and go ahead, say you do get the job or whatever, but if you an emotional wreck and you unstable, then you're not going to be able to keep that job, are you? You know, I can't emphasize that work enough. So I recommend uh doing the blockbuster before you do any road opener to make sure that your work is successful. Now, there's other things that you can do too. I won't talk about over here, excuse me, on this platform, but I definitely go into more details uh, about the rituals that you can do and the secrets of Psalms to help you amplify your work. So if you're interested in hoodoo and you of African diaspora, um, you're welcome to go over there and join my Patreon community because there you can learn in the beginners, but it's really for practitioners who are ready to amplify their work and they're done with the fancy little spells. They're ready to get some structure under their workings. They're ready to dive into ritual, to real root work, really getting into things. So if you're interested in that, get over there. I certainly got some things to share when it comes to ritual and amplifying your work. So we talk about that a lot over there. What else I want to talk about? Mm, Oh, this is another thing I wanted to talk about too. I wanted to talk about ancestors because that's very important on your hoodoo journey. Do not dismiss this because the workings, eh, that's the power of your work, beloved. So having your relationship with your ancestors is going to be essential. Having a relationship with your ancestors is going to be essential. I can't recommend that enough for you. And constantly going to that altar, spending time there. I'm not talking about just putting stuff up there and walking away. I'm talking about sitting your booty down there and talking to them the way I am talking to you, beloved. Tell them everything that's going on with you. Again, you're developing your relationship with spirit because you go on to work with other spirits. Even when it comes to working with these herbs, I see people pouring herbs in candles. It don't take all of that. It just doesn't. And there I'm not saying because it's a relationship. Remember this is spirit. It's a sort of African spiritualism. And that's sort of a relationship, sort of anaism that's going on as well. So when we're not slowing down and honoring nature, which is, the source of making our work do what it do, then we're missing the whole point, you know, and then overdoing it as well. I mean, the herbs have already, you got enough herbs, or there's no reason to, waste plant life like that. I just can't be, uh, I don't know other way to say that. Don't waste plant life like that. It don't take a lot of plant life, a lot of plant energy to get it done. as long as you praying over it and sanctifying it and putting it in your workings. But you see some of that, and then some people will come back and say, well, why did my candle look like that? Or why did my candle burn like this? Because you put too much stuff in it. We kind of overdid it. So we want to be able to read the candle too. Why am I talking about this? I just have seen this so much, you guys. I'm so sorry. I've seen this so much. But we want to be able to, you want to be able to read it too, beloved, and see if there's any signs of your magic working. But if we're putting too much oil in there and too many herbs in there, then it's going to be difficult to read the candle. Okay, it's going to be difficult to read the candle if you do that. But making sure that you're having a relationship with your ancestors and going there, sitting there, talking with your ancestors. Okay, don't just sit there and or don't do anything and just sit water and food up there and leave. Some of them like for you to read the Bible. Some of them like to hear the blues. Was and I like reading too. And this probably is not popular among people, but I like reading the prayers of the dead. Those Catholics prayers for the dead. I like reading those to my ancestors. I feel like those prayers they uplift. Hi, sweetie. Hi, how you doing? I feel like those prayers uplift my ancestors and it elevates them. So I like reading that, but really spending time with them and then reading Bible verses. I play my triangle bells and hum. Yep, that's a good one too. Yes, I like playing their favorite gospel music if they was here. I read scriptures to them. Sometimes I just dance. Um or sometimes I just talk. Like I just find myself just blabbering and talking to them, but really at least do 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. And if you have a day there, I think the more frequent that you go there, because if you're really serious about your hoodoo journey, you're going to be going there more frequent because of the rituals that you're going to be doing if you're doing them. If you're a person that have structure and have ritual that you do, because believe me, most hoodoo practitioners, most of us, we got rituals we have to be on time for at that altar. You don't really have time to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. you know, it's so hard for me to explain, and that's why sometimes it's hard for me to get here because sometimes these rituals pull you away, and that's for your own, development in these relationships that you gain with these spirits. And you'll notice that in a lot of, if the person has been steeped in that hoodoo practice a while, it won't be uncommon for you to go in their house and they have a altar, a angel altar. They got a saint's altar. They got they might have a Papa Legba Saint Peter altar. They might have three or four altars in there. So don't. I mean, that's just they might have something from a whole different system in there. They might have something from voodoo in there. Like Azarla Frida, something like that. They might have something else in there. Again, hoodoo is a very vast spiritual practice, and that's why I love it. Now we go over that over there in Patreon, where I think I did a book review on hoodoo, voodoo, and conjure. That was the name of the book. And it was amazing going through that book once again and seeing how hoodoo runs into voodoo. That's why I said when people there was voodoo already here in America. Let's get this. I talked about that over there. There was voodoo. There was a form of voodoo already in America. Sweetie says she learning. I'm glad you learning. There was already voodoo already in America. That's why, who was that? Somebody was talking about this lady. She went over to Africa. She got initiated, and but she was trying to get initiated, and come to find out that woman, she passed away over there trying to get initiated over there into Haiti. I'm like, why are y'all going to these different places, Africa, Haiti, and all this stuff? Why are you doing that? You can already feel. Voodoo means spirit, ancestral. That's what's the center. That's why ancestral veneration is so important in the ATR, because that is the source of the power. That's the power source in the ATR. That's why if you're not this color and you come over here and start grabbing and reaching for certain things in hoodoo, because of the way it's set up, it may not turn out good for you because the way it was set up. But it's so, what I like about it, because of all these nations came together. It's a series of nations and bloodlines. Okay, we have a series of nations and bloodlines that flow through us, that gives us a uh variety when it comes to our spiritual practice. I'm gonna say it like that. That's what I love about it, because it's not a religion. It's very different from voodoo, but we already got our own voodoo. There's no reason for you to go somewhere and be initiated when this was already here in the Americas. We already had a form of ancestral spiritual practice already here. We had voodoo. Voodoo already here. So I don't know why you would need to go over there when voodoo was already here in the Americas. So not a lot of people not gonna tell you that. But I go over that when I go into the book called Hoodoo, Voodoo, and Conjure. Now, is that voodoo gonna look the same? Absolutely not. It's not gonna look the same because they're different ancestors. They might have some of the same archetypes, just like you'll see with Lukumi, and you'll see what is another one with that? Santeria. Miss Santeria tell you leukemia ain't the same as Lukumi. And Lukumi tell you Santeria is not the same as Lukumi. You see what I'm talking about? The archetypes are the same, but the difference is the ancestors on that land. The ancestors, the source. So yes, it is different because our ancestors are different. Those are different ancestors. So to go to somebody else and get initiated, Haiti, you asking their ancestors to ride with you when your ancestors ain't never spilled no blood on their soil. Your ancestors ain't never been there before. Why you trying to? You got ancestors here. Again, we get caught. I think we get caught up in all this other stuff, some of the sensationalism in some of this, and especially for Black Americans, you already have that there in the United States. There's already Black Americans there. There's already voodoo there. This is so disrespectful to leave your ancestors' house and know they've been taking care of you and everything else, and then go to another. These ancestors don't even know you, and asking them to adopt you, and you don't even need them. You already got ancestors that. You see what I'm saying? I don't think people look at it from their perspective. It's a disrespect to your ancestors because they've already that land there is ancestral. That's where your ancestors is from. So to go somewhere else and be initiated into voodoo, uh, and some of these other spiritual practices, really think about your ancestors. Really think about that. Would they want that for you? Because see, in hoodoo, we get a chance to uh not just honor those ancestors that was in those ATRs that were openly practicing, but we're able to honor those ancestors who hid the practice under religion. There's power in those ancestors too, because those were some powerful ancestors who were able to continue function, perform hoodoo under religion and keep it alive. Those are some powerful ancestors who were able to do that, who were healers, conjure women, conjure men in our community. They were just as powerful if these other places that you're going. And I think we really dismiss that, especially as Black Americans. We really dismiss the power of our ancestors there in that land. I mean, look at those ancestors. We blues. Look at our genre of music. Look at our style. Uh, people around the world look at Black Americans and kind of uh adopt our culture. They'll absorb our culture into theirs. I mean, why would you want to go somewhere else? Because your ancestors is just as powerful as anyone else. I mean, they are soul people. Everyone around the world copies them, their style, their flavor, especially the Black woman. I'm just telling you. And so, when you look at it from that perspective, I know for me it was like, damn, why would I go over there and go do that? Like, those are not my ancestors. I know only know this land. How long have you been in this land? So really think about that when you're going to get initiated. Yes, you could do voodoo. You could do voodoo by way through hoodoo. Because when you go into hoodoo, the deeper you go in your practice, especially when we go into conjure. I haven't even started posting the stuff for conjure yet because I'm trying to take my time over there. I don't want people to get their hands on stuff and they don't understand really how it operates. So for my conjurers over there on Patreon, I am going to get into that, but I wanted to be careful how I post that to make sure that you're ready because that is a big responsibility when you get to doing conjure because you're going to be coming in contact with spirits, and if your emotional and mental health is not in line, that you know it can have some repercussions. I'm just gonna be serious with you. You got folks out here now doing conjuring, they crazy. They doing conjuring, they crazy. You got some people out here doing conjuring, they crazy. So you have to be careful. I have to be careful how I dismiss the information. I got some info. I even have something posted here um on here on the channel. That book, Summoning Spirits. I think that's here. I posted it in Patreon too. I don't think I even gotten a book review with them yet. This is going to be a very good book review for them because I'm going to break all this down for them. But that book is a really great book if you're really ready to go hands on with spirit. Just follow everything in that book. And it tripped me out because I saw my bedroom turn into, what did it turn into? It turned in I was in this astral reality where I was seeing spirits float around in that room. So it's a really phenomenal book, and it just shows you how magic is already in us. We just don't know how to use our mind to access it. So that's a phenomenal book, and it goes into the goetic spirits, um, which a lot of I had to learn that some people are taken back by some of the goetic spirits. So I say if you do get in that book, um, it's safer to work with the archangels or some of the planetary spirits. I would recommend you work with those are safer. Because I'm not saying the goetic spirits is bad. I think the goetic spirits have gotten a bad rap uh, upon the people who work with them. But you want to be careful about a goetic spirit because some of them want to be paid. And if you don't pay some of these spirits, they don't work for free. See, when you step into conjure, you step into a whole different reality. Now, as long as you in root work and you with your ancestors or whatever else, you done gained enough experience to go into conjure. But some people they jump into conjure I talked about that. You got some people in the conjure, and I talked about how my uncle, he was a conjure man. You know, he went right into work, and this man ain't did no root work, honey. Work life was raggedy. Life was raggedy. Went in there and started doing that conjure, honey. That man conjured up something. I don't know what it was, but he was scared of the dark. Before he passed away, he wouldn't sleep with the light off. But whatever he conjured up, um, you know, I don't think he was able to make the payment, whatever it was. You seen the movie Sinners. You saw what went on in Sinners. They was wanting that boy. And conjure is like that. Most musicians, from what I see, and I talked about this on the other platform, most of them are conjurers. Most musicians are conjurers. Yes. Rapper, the MC, especially ones that call themselves the MC, masters of ceremony, masters of conjuring. That's what they are. And most of their life be some kind of messed up because they got to make a deal with this spirit. You understand me? That's conjure. I'm gonna I think another good movie to go watch it that I remember my sister loved that movie. I think it's called Voodoo Dolls. You guys remember that movie? It's an old movie. And my younger sister thought that movie was so funny. She liked that movie, but it's called Voodoo Dolls. And this boy's guy's mother, I think it's his grandmother or mother, she was a conjure woman. And something was going on with their music, and they was trying to get back at this producer. And so she told her grandson, she was like, "Don't make no deal with this conjure man, because you gonna have to pay him." You know, she worked with all sorts of spirits, and she was a conjure woman. He had learned a lot from her. And honey, I think they made try to make a deal with that spirit. Yes, they did. And his grandmother was like, "He's gonna come for his payment. He's gonna come. You gonna have to cash in, or he gonna take all y'all down." And that's what happened. That spirit was following. They were trying to get at them because it wanted its payment. So you gonna have to pay if you do some conjuring, and depending on what you conjuring. Depending on what you conjuring too. Some spirits are um malevolent, and they want a very mild payment. See, that's why I stay on the ancestor side. You can work with ancestors and never have to conjure. There's some people work with ancestors and never they work with other you know what I'm trying to say, a lack for I just consider conjure a little bit is high magic. When you go into doing what John D did and doing evocations and doing conjure and thing like that, that's more of a high magic, and you've really got your ceremonial and ritual magic together. Okay, but it's a whole different ballpark when you go in there and you start doing conjure. And it's some people that don't have any problem do it. They great conjurers. You see it every day. It's not very hard to be a conjurer, but what you conjuring up, be careful about that. Are you gonna be able to pay? Because spirits are attracted to sound. They are frequencies. Remember, y'all, we dealing with frequencies. We dealing with sound. We already know in hoodoo, our mouth and our mind is the most powerful, uh, the powerful tools in our workings. And you get and instruments. I'm telling that sound. They are spirits are attracted to sound. And those who know. If you've been a practitioner, whether you're a witch or whatever you might be in this live stream. You know what I'm talking about. That's how you get a lot of your work going on. You can really get into your ritual and get that ashe flowing with those frequencies. Just like those old gospel songs our ancestors used. I find myself using a lot of that when I'm doing work in some workings. to tap into certain frequencies, different various healing energy, whatever the energy I need to tap into. Don't sleep on that music in your workings. That's all I'm saying, because it attracts the spirit. And if you do it right, it attracts the right spirit that you need to work with. Now, but when you get into conjure over there on the other side, and you got that ceremony together, you got that ritual together, and you put that together and you start conjuring, that is a big responsibility. Because, like what I say, some of these spirits, you have to pay. You'll see that in voodoo too. They have to go buy this, you know, they may have to sacrifice a cow, a goat, a sheep, because that's what those spirits want. You have to make a blood, some type of blood sacrifice. There's some spirits like that. And if you're not ready to go there, you can stay over there where the root work is. You can do some fire root work with your ancestors. That baby, it be the fires, and the people can't tell if it's conjure or root work because it's so fire. You stay on the saint side, you know, with just tapping with the big dogs when I call them high steppers, big steppers. The people that work in conjure, you really have to have your mind together when you get there. Your mind, your psychological, emotional health together when you start messing with conjure. A lot of people are not gonna tell you that. Then too, and that's why I recommend too, when you do get into this practice, get your emotional and mental health together. I can't, I can't, express ancestral healing doing the trauma work, generational trauma work. I can't express that enough to you. I cannot, because that's where the wisdom, when you start doing that, all those rituals that you think you didn't know, the workings you think you didn't know, your ancestors will start revealing those rituals to you. They'll start showing you stuff through your healing. They'll start showing you stuff to do for yourself that work. Stuff that you thought you forgot, but that was still there, dormant, laying there. It's still there, but we won't know it until we start removing some of these blocks out. That's why I recommend, their healing. I've seen it happen. And once you start moving that stuff out and start remembering, you be like, oh my gosh, hoodoo always been there, especially Black Americans. Hoodoo has always been there. I know you think your family wasn't doing it. Yes, they was. You not gonna see that until you start healing and breaking down that family tree and doing your healing. When you start doing your healing, everything it starts to clear out and make more sense. Okay. I know a lot of them were, I look at my family, they were not perfect. But I saw hoodoo all up in there. I'm just like, these folks was doing hoodoo, people sleeping with Bibles up under their pillow, you know. uh, People was just now go back and look at that. Grandma putting dolls on the wall. Why are you doing that? Grandma putting newspaper on the wall, putting water everywhere. Why are you doing that? Never answer my question. But they was doing hoodoo right in front of my face. They was doing hoodoo right in front of my face, y'all. Never answer my question. Never answer my question, 'cause I would ask. I was inquisitive. I mean, some of the other children would ask, but sometimes I would ask, "Why are you doing that? Why are we doing this?" I never understood why my grandmother wanted us to give us our. She had to take our first doll. Every grandchild had to give her their first doll. She take and pin it to the wall. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you taking? It didn't make sense then. It didn't make sense until later. I was like, oh, this is these folks was doing this. They never explained. So they never it was just a part of the culture. So you will definitely see that when you start doing your ancestors work, um, doing some assessments over there. I think I downloaded a book. I think and you guys may have a free book, but I sent a free. They got a free little journal little booklet for help with ancestral work over there in Patreon. So I give you a structure to start doing that, and it's an ongoing process. So don't think this just gonna stop when you go through your booklet one time. No, it's an ongoing thing because you're deepening your relationship with your ancestors every time you go through. Just keep the work ongoing. You just keep refining yourself, getting junk out of there that needs to be out. It took you, you was like that from cellular, from the very cell, you were like that. So repairing that DNA and getting that stuff out takes time. It took, took you a while to get like that because of all that stuck in the generational line. It's going to take a while to get it out, especially with, all our ancestors been through in hundreds of years like that. Don't, I tell people, just take your time and go through it, and the magic will happen. The magic happens while you're doing it. That's the only way I can explain it. Magic happens when I do it in relation to ancestors work and veneration. I feel like really getting in tune with family totems, animals does something for you. They really does. Now you'll see that with your ancestors a lot. They will come to you through animals. You'll see that spending time in nature because those ancestors, especially if they've been there in that land for generations, they're going to speak through those animals. You'll get a lot of symbols through animals and out there in nature, talking to trees, talking to the land, especially talking to the land. A lot of people, they focus on the trees and the birds and things like that. I like the land because we have to ground to it, and she is the most ancient ancestor. A lot of healing comes up for us, and we can connect with her because she tells a story. Now that I remember talking to the land, and especially I think I was over there at the Toltec Mounds, and I was like, oh my gosh, why do I like coming out here to these mounds? And oh, ancestors, I just love it. I just love coming out here in the mounds. Why do I like this so much? Why it just feels so good to me. And just as clear as day, that land spoke. It speaks if you ready to listen. Okay, if you ready to listen to it. That land said, she said, honey, child, you from this land. Honey, that's why you like coming here. Your folks, this is your folks' land. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, child. I said, well, how long we been here? Girl, you been here for thousands of years. I said, but some people say we come from over there. They said, child, you been here. You been here. I don't care what they saying. Listen to what the land tell you. I don't care because the art, all that architecture, all that archaeological evidence is there, and in history is in conflict with the archaeological evidence. You know what I'm saying? The land is not going to lie to you. You go to those old historical indigenous site like the mounds and those places. Sit there and talk to those ancestors because they will tell you a story. Now they telling you this come from the pre-Columbian civilization, and they break them up during the Adena period. But one thing I do know for sure, when you start looking at the mounds, and this has been absolutely verified because they ask, let's not get that twisted. They asked the Native Americans. You see, we don't get that twisted. They asked what we know as the Native Americans today who built those. They asked them, did they build the mounds? They said no. The people that were already there built them. They didn't build them. This is what the Native Americans said. They said they did not build poverty point. Anybody know what poverty point is? I talked about poverty point on here. They did not. They admit they did not build poverty point. So the people that were already here. that pre-Columbian civilization. And they admit that's why I be so confused when uh they stating they were the first Americans, and I'm like, no, you what? Like some of them just like, wait a minute now. I know that y'all have the five civilized tribes, and out of that five civilized tribes, if you're not looking like me, you could not have been the first one here. I'm gonna put it that simple. And I'm not trying to knock them. Yeah, they were here at this land. Yeah, they were here with us. They was there with us in America on that land. Yes, they were. A long time with us. We shared that land. But like they say, they didn't build some of the older archaeological finds there. They admit, a lot of them admit that no, our ancestors didn't build that. That was already here. Those people that was here when we got here, they built that. We didn't do that. And again, we have to go back to the, and when they're saying this, they're talking about the pre-Columbian civilization that was already there when they came there. Okay, it tripped me out when my ancestors was telling me that, and I got to looking into that stuff and finding that stuff out, and I was like, whoa, like there's a lot of misconceptions and misinformation going on here because no one really knows. But like I said, when you talk to that land, the land doesn't lie. People will lie, but she ain't gonna lie. She gonna tell you the truth. People can lie, like what this boy said his grandma taught him, a funky pair of lips to say anything. People will lie, but you have to know the truth if you're willing to listen to the land and not to the conquerors. They're not gonna be forthcoming. And there's a lot of blood that's been spilled on their lands. So the spirits have a lot to say out there if we take the time to listen. So don't dismiss, going out there in nature and talk to the inside. I firmly agree. The animals that you see, the deer, uh, even the raccoons, the squirrels, there's a message there from the ancestors. But I like I said, I really want you to understand, anyone that thinks about getting into hoodoo, voodoo, any of the ATRs, that's they're gonna sit you down and get you right with your ancestors every time. And I have to promote that. I know you seen the fancy bells and whistles and showing you how to do all this different stuff. You know, it's good that you do know how to do that stuff. But if you're going to be a practitioner and you want to be proficient at what you're doing, having a relationship with your ancestors is going to be vital. And some people think that I'm talking about family when I say that. No, I'm not talking about just your uh your family member. Your family members, your close family members. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And if you want to know more about that types of ancestors, I think I got it there on this channel where I talk about that a little bit on this channel. Because when we talk about ancestors, we're talking about a wide scope of healthy, vibrant ancestors. And some of our ancestors, you can't tell the difference between them and angels. There is, when we look at the Egungun and we look at the Buckaloo, am I pronouncing it right? Baluka, I think that's the name of it. Baluka. We look at those ancestors, they look more like angels. Even when you start working with the saints, which at some point in your hoodoo journey, a lot of hoodoo start working with saints. But when you start looking at saints, some of the saints start looking like ancestors. I'm like, what is this? This look like an ancestor. When you start looking at something, you be like, oh my God, you'll start picking it up real quick. Uh, Once you develop a relationship with your ancestors and you start working and understanding, the spiritual system of hoodoo and the variety of support we have when we do our workings, you'll start to see, you be like, oh my gosh, this is like angels. This is like, so working with angels really opened my eyes too, because I started could not being able to tell the difference between ancestors and angels because of the energy was so vibrant. You got some energies of ancestors that vibrate so high, very very bright, vibrant, very vibrant energy, and you'll see that. It tripped me out when I started experiencing. I was like, I can't even tell the difference. Like, I can't. You'll know if you're doing your rituals and you're on your altar and you know how your ancestors feel and you know how angels feel. You'll be able to know the difference if you're staying consistent at your work. Okay, but ancestors are going to be the center of all of it. It just really don't function well without it. And once you get over there in Patreon and I break that down in that book, like when you look at Shango, I've talked about that. Shango was a real person who was later deified. You can look at that with Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau, she was such a great hoodoo worker, a voodoo priestess, and helped so many people. You got people going to her grave, leaving her offerings, and trying to petition her help in their workings. See how she got deified? They are. It really does. Rain is not lying. It starts with your bloodline. I remember my grandmother, she started coming up in readings, a medium, when I first got my medium reading. I was young then. I was like in my late 20s. And she started coming up in my readings, and my grandmother came up and she was talking about me driving fast, and she talked about the guy that I had married. She was like, you don't need to be with him. I mean, she was just coming up. uh I started talking to her one day in my room. A picture of her floated out of my ceiling. I never had this picture of her. uh Again, my grandma and most grandparents, I had to learn that later, most grandparents serve as guardians to their grandchildren. They serve as angels to their grandchildren. I did not know that. But she was the first one to come up. And my grandmother was an only child, but she loved all her children. She always wanted a lot of children. She was always proud of all her crazy children and crazy grandkids. We was all crazy. She was so proud of that. She bragged about that all the time. And I think it's because she was the only child. She didn't have any siblings. And then to see her fruit, her seed like that, I think she was very proud of that. So yeah, most time if you had a pretty good grandparent there come forward to me, then you have two. We can go beyond that. You have spiritual parents that adopt you through the spiritual realm. You have spiritual ancestors that adopt you, that look after you. Yeah. You have star ancestors, ancestors that had never been born. Uh, I think a great example of that is when you look at Sinners and Sammy is playing that guitar, and then you see his ancestors there that they ain't even been born yet, but they're there. They're rocking out with him out there in that juke joint. So yeah, you have ancestors like that that's never been born. So when you talk about ancestors, then you have ancestors too of the land. When you go in another land, like here, I find myself, having to give an offering to these ancestors because I'm not gonna go in nobody's house and be disrespectful. My my folks taught me how to speak to folks when you come in their house. To the same respect, if you want those ancestors on your side, you want to befriend the elders there. Okay, so when you look at ancestors, you're not only talking about your blood. That's why you have some people they love being around old people and animals. You got some people like that. They don't like being around nothing but old people and animals. I know my mom was like that. Respect your elders. I mean, the same goes in the spiritual realm too. It goes a long way when you start to respect the elders where you are, because it's ancestors everywhere. They can reach you anytime, anywhere, through anybody. I keep saying I've seen it too many times. I have seen it too many times, and it'll touch your heart. It'll touch your heart when you see how they work. So do not dismiss that. I really want to emphasize that in hoodoo, because I see a lot of people. Uh, I don't think we talk about it enough. Let me just say that I don't think we talk about that enough. We talk about the bells and whistle and how powerful hoodoo is, but we don't talk enough about the source of the power in hoodoo, and that all is with our ancestors. Because a lot of us wouldn't be able to tap back into this wisdom, especially me, because I catch myself now. My ancestors, I go through some of them lessons over there. I'm going through them lessons again and doing the lectures. My ancestors will start kicking up and start showing me other stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was hoodoo. Oh my gosh. So that wisdom does come through. More you can clear some of that stuff out, because we need a clear mind too, because your mind is your spiritual transmitter. It's always receiving information. Your subconscious, you're constantly getting information. And if you got too much junk up in there, gulk, negative thought forms, which are blocks, ain't nothing but oppressive spirits, you got all that stuff in there. How you gonna know who talking to you? How you gonna know your thoughts from something else? And you will know when the thought is not from you. You know when it's your ancestor, because it's absolutely no way you can come up with something like that yourself. And it's a good it's out because I'm always surprised by it. But you will start having a more clear conversation with your ancestors. But you need to know who's talking, who's saying something in here, who's communicating with you in here and in here. You have the emotions intact and the mind intact, because again, you are a bio spiritual unit. You're constantly receiving information, and if you haven't gotten a lot of that debris off you, that energy debris from years, months, or whatever is going on, you're not getting rid of it. Then you're not going to be transmitting, picking up messages the way you want to, or the way you need to. I hope that made sense. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. I hope it. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Phoebe. Yes. So yeah, you want to, because that's the center of everything with us. We are nothing without them. We wouldn't even be standing up here having this conversation if it wasn't for the ancestors. So yes, Phoebe says, yes, so true. And Bemba, the tribe of Zambia, we taught to respect elders as well, like the way we talk to them. And there is an adjective we add to their name to show respect. Rain says some of us are reincarnated ancestors, and I do believe that is why some of us has such strong intuition and knowledge of certain things. I'm going through that. I believe that. Uh, I believe that to a certain extent. I do believe that eh, you know, with my own experience. And I think the hardest thing for me, because looking at the archetype that I'm in, I am a Sagittarius the centaur, um, and most of Sagittarius, because looking at my family, I think I have been the more of the prophet there because of the archetype of the Sagittarius, and especially how it plays out in the family. Most Sagittarius, well, I'm looking at me. I'm going to stay focused on me. Are the truth seekers and the truth tellers in the family. They're the ones waking the family up. This show has been my issue. If you've been following me for a while, you know my story. So yeah, I believe that. I believe a lot of us ancestors are coming through being reborn, trying to heal, pushing some of the family to heal. Because a lot of them, the ancestors, are stuck in the karmic loop. They keep repeating trauma over and over again. And what the ancestors is trying to get us to do is wash out that bloodline to get that out of there, to refine them. Because when you refine yourself, you start refining the ancestors, and you pass, if you do have children, you pass on healthy DNA, healthy patterns and behaviors onto them when you've washed that DNA. That's what happens there. Because healing is very contagious, especially um like the ancient mothers have told me, when the mothers heal, because the mothers are the heart of the family, and mother is the name of God on the lips of men and children. When when the mother heals, it's contagious. It heals the whole family, because the mother is the first teacher. She's the first embodiment of divine authority. So when you start healing, it becomes contagious, especially for the woman. You'll start seeing people around her, her relationship heals, she heals. Um, the way she interacts with her children, it will improve. So I definitely saw my growth and progress as I went through a lot of ancestral healing and looking at my grandmother, looking at the women in my family, looking at what was passed on to me by them, understanding their stories. Because when I first started healing, I think I was a little bit judgmental, too judgmental when it came to judging everybody for what they did to me, and not looking at the fact that I inherited everything they did to me. At some point in my life, I wasn't innocent. I did those things to other people as well. And then finding out, where did they get this from? How's this junk, this crap in our bloodline like this? Why am I like this? Basically, that's what I'm asking myself. Why am I like this? God, I don't like the way I am. I don't like this. And really start looking at it. And it's like, wow. Then having compassion for yourself, and then having extending that same compassion to your ancestors as well. Okay, because when you really start looking at, why am I like this, you can judge them less. Become less judgmental, and more compassion moves in, especially when you find out their stories. And for me, I had to stop looking at them, because I think with family, we think they have an obligation to us. They have an obligation not to hurt us. They have an obligation to love us. You know, I had to stop in order for my healing to take place. I had to stop looking at them as family and start looking at them as individual with different lives, with different issues. Because I think the family for me was giving them like this superhero thing. They supposed to be super this or super that, and super mom and super dad, when really these are just individuals that were living their life just like me. And I was just giving them too much power that they didn't really have. and they didn't want, but my little mind, the way I was processing it, my inner child, my little child still looking at the hero in my family, wasn't ready to look at them like that, but I had to look at them as individuals separate from me, not just my family, not obligated in being a certain way because they were my family, but just looking at them as individuals with different problems and issues. And that helped me move past a lot of that. Is it some that I'm still dealing with? Absolutely. I don't think it never really goes again, we've been on this planet Earth and nobody gets out of here unscathed. Nobody gets out of here unscathed. So, yes, it's an ongoing process, and I think that's the part that people don't like. They love the part where we want to be entertained and we can blow cinnamon out of our door and we can burn these fancy, cute little candles and run these beautiful bath waters and things like that. But then when it's time to get ugly, when it's time for me to push you to heal, when it's time for you to look at that assessment, for me to prompt you when to open your mouth. Because in hoodoo too, we a lot of people out here running their mouth and it should be closed. I can't tell you not a real practitioner. Some of the things that I see here, a lot of them is not gonna be talking. In fact, a lot of us have a problem coming to social media and being consistent, which is me. A lot of us have to close our mouth and know when to open our mouth. And that's one thing when you start doing your healing in hoodoo, you know when to keep your mouth closed because you start seeing the power in your mouth. Because on your healing journey, that's what you're gonna be using the most, your mouth and your mind to heal yourself. And so you start learning to keep your mouth closed when you start seeing the power in your voice, in your sound, in your mouth, in your portal. When you start seeing you speak things into existence and you speaking things over yourself and it's happening to you, you using your own magic on yourself because you very careful how you speak to yourself and what you say, then you start keeping your mouth closed. You do. You don't really have you rather not say anything because you too big. And sometimes you be wanting to say something in spirit to have your mouth tied up. It don't even come out right. I have been wanting to tell people something and it don't even come out right. People don't even understand what the hell I just said to them because spirit didn't want me to tell them anyway. They wanted it to get fumbled up and messed up like that because them folks when they wasn't ready to know. You're not gonna see a lot of us, and you guys know you're not gonna see a lot of real readers either. Real readers are not gonna be out here continually doing tarot readings. They'll probably do it every once in a while, but you're not gonna see them frequently giving out collective readings. And you guys, there's no such thing as that. It just doesn't work that way. That's just like a horoscope. A horoscope is general, right? Horoscope is general. It might not be the specific thing for you. In order for you to know more about your particular what's going on with you with your star sign, you'll probably have to go get your natal chart or your birth chart read or something like that. Go see an astrologist, see what the stars got going on with you. The same thing with a reading. So I'm seeing a lot of storyline collective readings. Oh, Cynthia Ever. I have never heard. Oh, okay. Yes, I have heard of Cynthia Erivo. I forgive you. I have to listen to that. I have to listen to that. I don't think I've heard too much of her music, but I tell you, I mean, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. I forgot what I was saying, you guys. But anyway, doing that healing again is going to be good. I recommend that. Again, doing that, these collective readers, that's what I was talking about. These readers out here, because I didn't see a lot of this before COVID, you guys. That's what got me like, what, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, what the hell? What is this? I did not see a lot of this before COVID. And now I'm seeing a lot of these storyline readers. Um, and of course, don't be fooled by that, you guys. So be careful out there with the storyline readers. And I know that's popular among some of these psychic companies as well, because I work for a psychic company. And I told them people, I can't work for y'all because y'all want me to lie to people. You don't want anybody to get any results and be healed here. You want me to lie to them so they can keep calling in. No, I mean, why'd you? You know I have this gift because y'all tested me and everything. You tested me and everything. You know I have a gift. So why would you want me to sit here and lie to people? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say it in a way to keep them calling, coming back. And really, I'm concerned about people that likes to get a lot of tarot readings, because that what it's telling me is two things. It's telling me either you're not being very discerning when you choose a reader, or two, you don't want to do what you need to do. The spirit wants you to do. You don't want the divine guidance. You want somebody to tell you something that you want to hear. And when you're doing it, and some people they want readers like that. They want readers to tell them what they want to hear. And really, it's a healing. It is a healing modality. It is not a lot doing with fortune telling. Everybody want to use that fortune telling. But if you're a tarot reader for a long time, you've been reading for a long time, then you know I'm telling you the truth. Because those tarot is there to call you out and get you looking at yourself, get you looking at what's going on. Now, it can't tell you about what's going on now, but it's definitely going to, you pick them up long enough and you messing with them long enough, you're going to have to heal. You got some readers out here that's doing tarot not healed. And so, like I said, be careful with that. But I am concerned uh, about the storyline readings. When I see that, I'm just like, what the hell? And if you go through some of them, all of them start sounding the same. It starts sounding the same. I'm like, what the hell is this? What's happening here? What is happening here? So it just doesn't work that way. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, I've been doing it for a long time. And for somebody to be energetically doing that, it just doesn't work that way, you guys. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And so you're gonna see a lot of that out here. If you want to reading, get you a reading yourself. Get one yourself. Pay for your own reading. Stop. Don't listen to a lot of these collective reading, because I've had to undo some of them. You understand me? I've had people that come to me in a psychosis, I mean a real psychosis, that I've had to remove blocks. And it's just sad, because these people actually wanted to believe this stuff. you know be careful out there. Get your own reading, because it's something to try to undo this. When a person actually believe this stuff, they actually believe these collective readings because they've been so drawn into them. And that's what happened with the young lady I read. And it was just, I think that it was, for me, she was so emotional about it. Even when spirit came forward and told her, look, this person needs to heal. This person is focused on healing. There's no trust between you and this person. That's why this person doesn't want to have a relationship with you. You know, he He doesn't want that because you remind him too much of the things uh that gave him a hard time in his life. That's not what he wants. I'm looking right at the cards and being as gentle and loving as I can with that. But just with me telling her that just she broke down, went into this. It was just something. It was so emotional, and she stopped me. I said, "Well, I I'm writing this reading. I'm almost done, but I can't lie to you. Yeah, my healing journey. They don't want to hear that. It's so many people out here that now if you want lies and stuff, you want the spirit to tell you everything you want to hear. You don't need to be in hoodoo. You don't need to be messing with it because sometimes the spirit's gonna tell you no. They're gonna tell you no sometime when you want to do a fancy little spell. They're gonna be like, don't do that. You need to get somewhere over there and do some journaling, start healing. You need to go over here and do some prayer work over here. You need to do some affirmations for yourself. You don't need to be picking up nothing. You need to be working on. You're gonna have to respect that sometimes. I see a lot of people doing stuff and they ain't asked their spirit guys should they be doing it. They doing it because they want to do it. Most of the time, your spirit guys don't want you doing nothing. They really want you sitting down trying to find out who you are. People are reaching for things and not getting divine guidance. And then when you do give them divine guidance, or people are using spirituality to navigate they messy stuff. There was a girl up on here. Oh my gosh, yeah, I was doing a reading right here. I don't even know if the young lady's in here. That reading, I said I'm gonna have to stop doing readings on live streams for people. Cause that reading had me, I was just this young lady, and she knew what I was talking about too. I said, I don't even want to do this reading because this reading, girl, you got you a sugar daddy, and this is what yeah, this is what he doing, and you really you're getting this reading to make sure what you're doing is gonna keep him your sugar daddy. That's every eye that was coming in through that damn reading. I said, oh my God. I said, I just want to stop. I want to stop right now. I had to cut that off because I didn't want to get into that because our spirits just started talking to me. I said, oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy. I just had to cut that out. I said, I cannot do any readings like this online. It felt so sticky. It felt so manipulative. That's what it felt. It felt so manipulative. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And the more I was telling her, it was like, that's what she was wanting to hear. I said, oh my God, I can't believe I got myself in this. That whole reading, the way I felt about it. And, because again, I'm tapping into her energy. Her spirits is talking to me. So when this is happening, I can feel what she's feeling. And you've been doing it, you're intuitive, you've been doing it a long time. You could damn near uh hear what they're thinking when you're tapping into their energy like that. I said, I do not ever want to do a live reading like this again because I'm putting all this girl's business out in the street. But she didn't seem to mind. But I mind because I knew what she was doing. I knew what was going on with her and this older man. It was something. I was like, I can't do that again. I cannot. It was on right here on this platform. I can't remember where that reading was, but yeah, that tripped me out. So some people they want to reading just so they can navigate, um, their messiness. People will do that. I have people that come to me and want some type of workings. Like I had somebody jump in my box the other day. I want to do a banishing on somebody. Can you hit me with a banishing? And that's one thing about me. I'm not gonna give you nothing. You gotta tell me what it is, depending on what it is. Especially when it comes to stuff like that. I'm not gonna give you nothing, no work to do, or nothing like that. until I do a reading on you. And see, she thought I was just gonna give her some work to do and I'll let no, ma'am. Not in what you're talking about you're trying to do. I need to make sure if this what you need to do because what you're trying to do may not be what you need to do. Because that's a little extreme what you're asking. So what did you banishing him for? Let's go see it, let's not start messing with people like this until we, till I do a reading and see if that's needed. 'Cause some people be wanting to banish people, do stuff because they mad at folks. But she didn't follow up with a reading. Because I'm not gonna be telling you to do nothing and it's just messy. So you have people out there that just want to do what they want to do. They want to do love spells. They that I don't see the repercussions out of that. And then the man or whoever turn crazy and they become obsessed and now they got to get a damn restraining order. See what I'm talking about? See how that class to be these women putting these love spells on these men. Your ass gonna be needing a restraining order. That's what happens. There's other alternatives than that. There's other kind of workers. Y'all go. Some of them go straight to love spells. Yes, I used to do mediumship readings online, but then I said, you know what? Everyone kiss my ass, and you can feel what they're thinking when you read them. You're right. You can feel it. You can feel. I'm telling you, that read was something else. I felt like I needed to wash myself. Like after I was just like, oh yeah, I can just feel myself. No, 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 no. And she kept pulling me in there, just like, yeah, yeah. I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this. I was like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Let me cut this reading off because, girl, uh-uh. Mm-mm. I don't do them very. I don't like doing readings on here very often like that. 'Cause that really did something to me. Cause I'm like, I done got myself into something. Now I gotta finish this damn reading. And this girl's life is just, oh my gosh. I don't even want to put her business out there like that. But her spirits, they didn't care. They was chatty. They was really chatty. Like, yeah. They was showing me the man. They was showing me what she. I was like, oh my God, this is not good. I don't want to see this. You'll have that. So and be careful out here. Real tarot readers, they're not jumping in your box. Hell, I got them jumping in my box, and I'm a tarot reader. Be tripping me out. They be jumping in my box. Do you need a read? I was like, girl, wait a minute now. Why is you in my box? I got a feeling this is over you, and this is over you. If this is over you, if this resonates with you, give it a read. I said, y'all are something else. Now you in people box doing a storyteller reading in my DM. And didn't even see the part where I'm a tarot reader. Been one for a long time, so why are you in my box with this? So I have them get in my DM, and I just go ahead and delete them, block them, and delete them or whatever. But be careful out here, cause I'm what I'm seeing out here, you guys, and because especially when you've been doing this a long time, and you very spiritual, you see stuff in not on a third dimension. You're seeing stuff on a fourth, fifth, and sometimes sixth dimension when you see things. Because people have looked at me, I say something, they be like, you know, I don't see that, but I'm kind of used to it because that's how people do the prophet. Nobody believes the prophet until it come to pass, and then they come back to the prophet and be like, "How did you know?" They don't know that you seeing in the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension because they can't see what you see. So I've gotten pretty used to people thinking I'm crazy. And sometimes, the spirit have you like that. You can't even say nothing about it if you wanted to because they can't see what you see. So it's best for you just keep your mouth shut. It won't make sense. They're gonna think you crazy anyway, so you might as well keep your mouth shut. The ancestors got a clever way to keeping your mouth shut, and it has helped me keep my mouth shut because I'm telling you. And I understand now what them prophets went through in the Bible, telling them people stuff. Huh, them people didn't like no prophet. Don't nobody like no prophet. They don't like no seer. They don't like them people. You a lie. You crazy. You all let it. You talk type of seer. Them people they don't believe it until it happened, and everybody looking upside your head. So that's usually how it happens. I'm used to it. I'm pretty much used to it now. So now I know how to keep. I just keep my mouth shut. I have days I don't say anything at all. You know, I just be to myself. I just be stuck up here in the spiritual realm. Be careful about the aesthetics out there. We got a lot of aesthetics going on. We got people putting on costumes now. You know, my healing journey said I get it. We got people putting on costumes out there too, you guys. So be careful with that. We got to remember, especially if you're in the hoodoo practice. Remember, our ancestors they didn't wear a lot of that garb. Okay, they didn't have a whole bunch of crystals and stuff like that hanging from their neck. Sometimes you didn't know you were standing next to a hoodoo practitioner until you saw their lifestyle, saw the way they lived, or you saw something peculiar about them, or they told you. But you didn't know you were standing next to a hoodoo practitioner until they revealed that to you, or you saw their life, and you be like, "Oh, they into the work." So it's something that don't be fooled by the aesthetics. It's a shame to have to say this because I've seen people get taken advantage of because you're chasing an image. You don't know what real spirituality is about. It's not about the aesthetic. Okay, it's not about the aesthetic. Nobody, no real uh, practitioner or tarot reader is gonna be caught up in that like that. Not gonna be soliciting you. It's not about taking pictures and standing in front of cameras, and it's not about that. I'm seeing a lot of that there. I just don't like where this is going, you guys, if you can tell. I don't like where some of this stuff is going. So I don't know where it needs to. The real practitioners, we are out here. A lot of us are not saying much because we have to keep our mouth closed. So make sure you're keeping your eyes out for the real practitioners and not the people with the aesthetics and bells and whistles, because some of them, they are influencers. Let me say it like that. That was a good way. Some of them are influencers. Some of them are influencers. That's not hoodoo. So I'm seeing that out there too. So be careful out there when you're in finding you a spiritualist, finding you a reader. I had someone the other day I had to read the poor child. I bought a lot of clarity. The spirits, her ancestors and spirits brought in a lot of clarity for us. And hopefully we clear some things up for her. But get your own reading, you guys. Learn how to read yourself. Read the right way because I've not seen people with some of these cards. They don't even they read yourself. Read yourself. Learn how to read yourself. Start off with two spreads, a three-card spread. But start off small where you can get little simple messages and then work your way up to the Celtic cross or these other um reading spreads. But start with a three because with a three spread, you can do several three things with a three spread. You can do past, present, and future. You can ask three questions. You can do a lot of things with a three spread. So start out with a three spread and just interpret those cards and you'll get used to it. You will get used to it. Especially you'll start to see those archetypes in the tarot start popping up in your everyday life. You'll start seeing, you'll start seeing the Empress, walking down the street when you walking down the street. You'll know the King of Swords when you see somebody who is who's into technology. You know, that you'll start seeing those archetypes. They'll start coming up because I see them all the time. I talked about the other day. Now I see archetypes. Well, now I have here lately I had Papa Legba just showing up. Once you get in your practice, you'll start seeing these synchronicities, and some of these ancestral spirits start popping up. Even the tarot, the archetypes in your tarot start popping up. When my mom passed away, she when she came, she saw me in a dream. When I saw her in a dream, she was dressed up like the Empress in the tarot. Beautiful dress with the crown of flowers on her head. Um, she was standing by this tree with these beautiful fruits and flowers everywhere. Again, she was dressed like the archetype tarot. So sometimes I see them in my dreams as well. But you have the capability to read for yourself. And I do advise it now because we got a whole bunch of tricksters out here. They trying to make some money, and they feel like this is the quick thing they can get into it, and it's just not worth it, you guys. Sometimes it's not worth it. Either learn yourself or find you a reader that you know that's serious about what they're doing, and they're really going to help you and give you clarity. Do that. But please, I advise you don't follow these hype with these storyteller readers and these people getting in your boxes, or they have on the aesthetics, they're wearing the costumes. I'm seeing a lot of costumes. And I have to ask myself, what is happening here? And I didn't see too much of this before COVID. I didn't see a lot of this. It seemed like after COVID, I started seeing a lot of this stuff. But that's what's going on with hoodoo and healing. Do you guys have any questions you want me, any particular thing you want me to talk about? I thought those things were important that I wanted to really cover because there's a lot of stuff going on out here. Now, if you're interested in learning more about hoodoo, you of the African diaspora, and you just want to learn more about it, or you want to amplify your rituals, you're saying, I'm good, but I can use a little oomph. I like a little oomph. I want a little oomph. Get over there to Patreon. I do have a variety of rituals. We break down the secret teachings of Psalms. And I hear people tell you that all the time. Say this Psalm, say this Psalm, say this Psalm. But what a lot of people don't understand, we start breaking down the esoteric and occult meaning of Psalms, which I broke that down over there in Patreon. And the book review I did. Behind Psalms, and I probably come here and do a book review on that book. I'm still thinking about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it here, but I definitely have done it over there on Patreon to those members. Because I'm telling you, if I've dropped some real jewels in that book, and how to work the Psalms. It really amplifies you reading the Psalms when you know what you call it in there. When you think they talk, I'm gonna give you this hint. Everybody, when they talking about a Lord, Lord is a surname as Mr. or Miss. So you got to know which Lord you calling on when you're working with those Psalms. Did that make sense to you? Lord is a surname. So behind those Psalms are, if you don't know the name of the Lord you talking to, you need to know the Lord you talking to. Our ancestors knew how to get that information from the Psalms. That's why, some people tell you to read this Psalm's good for that. Yeah, it's good for certain things because there's a different Lord in each Psalm. Each Lord in those Psalms are helping you with certain things because they're different Lords. And when you know the name of these lords when you're saying the psalm, it amplifies your magic. See, when you can name something, you know something, you can call it forth, can't you? But long as you saying, "Hey girl, you over there, girl," it's a lot of girls over there, and you pointing, hey girl," don't nobody know what girl you talking about. You gotta know that girl name, don't you? Or you gonna say, "Girl in the red shirt, girl in the white hat," and she might turn around and say, "My name is Sandra. Sandra, come here." She gonna come to you once you know her name. You say, "Sandra, come here." Sandra come straight to you, won't she? Same thing with that with this some of them psalms in there. I break that down over there in Patreon so you'll know what Lord you're calling on in that psalm, and you'll know how to work that psalm. They're telling you to read it, but it's a way you should be reading it. It's a way that I recommend that you read it that you get the best results. Because again, they got you thinking Lord is the same person. No, it's not. Lord is a surname, like Miss, Mr., Sir, Ma'am. That's all it is. King, Queen, not Queen, not King Philip or uh, Queen Charlotte. We need to know what king we're calling on, what Lord we're calling on. Did you know that? But if you're interested in knowing these things, um, to amplify your work and to know more about conjure, it's like I said, if you're ready for that, you've been a hoodoo practitioner, you've been working with your ancestors, you've been working with the saints, and you said, you know what, I want to know more about this conjure. And I say you know, at some point you should know about it because you when you've done all that, at some point you should know about it because you might need it. You know, you might need it. You may not ever need it because I know I studied everything. And of course, you know, I'm a Sagittarius. We're truth seekers. We leave no stone unturned. We look up under everything. And I thought it was very interesting, especially looking at conjure historically, and then conjure, looking at the occult is when they start doing evocations. But to me, it's the same thing. A evocation and a conjure, it's almost the same thing. But with the evocation, you're trying to evoke these spirits onto the physical realm. You can also, you know, people use astral tools such as mirrors, water, crystal balls. Um, some people just do astral travel, whatever, just do a meditation where you can just do journey work and go in to talk to spirits. Now, if you have a good imagination and you trust your mind to open itself up to these type of realities and realms, the same thing as virtual reality, basically. I talked about that a little bit here. I think I did a book review on path working. See, don't miss out on the shamanism too, because you can also use shamanic techniques to communicate with these spirits too. I think that's the safest way to me than to just to full out doing some conjuring like that on the physical realm because you don't know the impact that it's going to have on you. Now, in the astral realm, you have pretty much a little bit more control over that, and you're less, you know, it's less chance of any mental or emotional injury. But when you start evoking spirits on a physical plane, it can mess up. It can mess up some stuff like that. But conjure when you're doing evocation and conjure, you know Be ready. You can't be scared doing that because whatever shows up, you got to stand in that circle and know what you're doing and don't be scared when it comes if you're doing any evocation or any conjurations of that sort to the physical plane. But like I said, there's other ways you can do it. A lot of people use astral tools. They'll evoke a spirit through an astral tool, such as a mirror, water, or a crystal ball. So you can choose how you want to evoke them on the plane. Of course, there's a lot of information here on YouTube about that. But of course, in Patreon, I'm gonna give my insights on it to break it down a lot, make it a little easier for you. But going into that right there, you better know what you're doing. You better know what you're doing. Better know what you calling up and know what you playing with when you're doing it, and be ready to pay some of these spirits. You know, I don't even recommend like working even some of the voodoo. Even though I work with Papa Legba, there's certain spirits I wouldn't work with. I wouldn't work with. And again, working with cool spirits, knowing the difference between spirits that's cool, because that's my best way to explain them. You got some spirits that's cool, compassionate, and easy to work with, which I call the saints, the archangels, and the ancestors. Then you have hot spirits. Those spirits are very hard to control, can be volatile. Volatile. That's what you step in. When you step into conjure, that's what you step into. How do you feel about people evoking angels? I think, I'm very dependent on the angel. Depending on the angel. I think that is the safest way to go. Because like I said, especially the archangels. Very easy to work with. They're more like cool spirits. So you're not gonna you won't get a lot of volatile response out of angels. Now people talk about the way they feel, the things they think. You know what spirit you're communicating with because of the thoughts and how you feel. That's why I said when you get over there to conjure, it's gonna be a different feeling. You might have some feelings some spirits that make you feel offensive, that have you thinking all types of negative thoughts. And if you ain't got your mind and emotions together, you're not gonna be able to control that that spirit. You got some spirits that manifest like that. The angel's gonna manifest more like a overwhelming peace or love or calmness or serenity. You might even start having flashes of uh of ideas, creativity just come out of nowhere. And the angels, they really something. Because they'll have your mind. If you say you want to learn something or you want the angels to start working with you, they'll start, it's something how they work. They'll start putting visions and creativity and just start flowing through your mind. Inspiration, because that's the best way to describe their communication is through inspiration, creativity, stuff. And this is not your mind. You know this is coming from a higher intelligence. It's coming from a higher intelligence. It's no doubt about it. When you come in with angels, because you be coming up with creative ideas and knowing things, there's no possible way you could have known on your own. You're in contact with the higher intelligence. So yes, I do recommend working with angels, because when you work with them long enough, they'll begin to heal your mind the more you become in contact with these angelic beings. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that homeschooler. I'm telling you, those angels, they're going to take your mind. Sometimes they can take you so fast, because you got to remember, this is pure creativity, inspiration. And if your mind is not, you haven't stretched your mind enough. That's why opening your mind up, learning new things, it makes it easier for them to work with you when you have an open mind. and you've educated yourself enough, and they can have conversations with you about certain things. But if your mind is not open enough and you have not did enough research or learning or study on that, it can really block your communication with them. So the more you study, the things you read, and you keep your mind open, the better the communication gonna be with the angels. Some things that you have never heard of before. I've done that with them. They will explain things to you that you know there is no way in your puny little mind that you could have understood that. They have explained this happens. It'll happen. Believe me, the more you work with them, the more often it'll happen. You'll start having stuff come out of nowhere. Now I experienced that uh a lot with them, a lot with them, and I sit down somewhere. I'm like, I know this ain't me. I know this ain't me. These are higher intelligences that are putting visions, that's putting creativity and a flow of inspiration. I call it a flow because that's how it is. They'll keep showing you so many different things. It is a beautiful frequency to be on when you get on there to start working with them. It's a beautiful because they have so many creative ideas. We can open yourself up to them. I bought some cards years ago that talked about evoking archangels. I had no idea what they were talking about until now. So this is refreshing, but still a bit new at the same time. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So there again, when you're again, your mind is going to be your transmitter. Remember, we're dealing with consciousness, and angels travel at the speed of light. Now, I have seen archangels with my experience with angels when I have needed them in my life. I have seen, I don't even know how to explain it, y'all, because this might sound crazy to you, but I'm going to say it because it's my experience. I have seen angels nudge people to do stuff. They have no idea why they doing it. I felt like I was in a time warp. I mean, like a Twilight Zone. Look, they use people. Just like they talk about these lesser thought forms, use people to do something. Angels do the same thing. They got people that they can use. I've seen them do it. So they can take on the physical form, but they also can move people to do things. I've seen them do it. Okay, so these are very powerful beings. So again, you can't underestimate what they can do either, because I've seen them do some things, and I'm like, oh my God, this angel is moving this person to do this, and they have no idea that, I don't know if they have an idea that they're being influenced by angel to do these things. You know, but I've seen that too, just like I've seen the lower energetic beings. You know, embody people. I have seen archangels, angels embody people and move them to do things for the good. Now that's a beautiful thing when you see it happen. Once you start trusting them and evoking them and calling them into your life, you'll start seeing them. it, it- I can't even put into words. You have to experience it and look at the energy at work. It's a magnificent energy to experience. And like I said, the ancestors work just like that's why I say the ancestors and angels, it's hard to tell them apart sometimes because of the energy and the frequencies are so high. I've seen ancestors have this and stuff, and I'd be like, oh my God, you know. The more you start working with these energies and you start seeing how they work, especially when again getting your mind in tune. Because they got to be able to drop. This is your transmitter. If this thing is all broken, it's got a whole bunch of smoke and the oil ain't been changed in it and it ain't been tuned up, you ain't going to be getting none with that. Oh, thank you for subscribing. You ain't gonna get nothing with that. If this is all clogged with all type of emotional abuse, all type of psychological abuse, if this thing ain't got no tune up or nothing like that, and you think you finna get a whole bunch of messages and they gonna be clear, it ain't gonna happen like that. You gonna have to do some healing. Even I had to do some healing when they came in my life. They had been telling me for a while, then they pushed me right on into that ancestors work, into that shadow work. They was like, "Nah, and now since you did this, now you need to get your ancestor out and be working over there. We see you later." That's what they said. We see you later. We got you where you need to go. We see you later. Another good book I would recommend because I put that in Patreon too, and I've also did a book review here. Angels working. I think it might even be a free PDF on the channel. I'm not sure, but it's a book by Silver Raven Wolf, and it's called Angels, Companions, and Magic. You want to get started working with angels. You want to really amplify your magic. Start working with archangels. The book is there. I mean, I have so much information out here. If you go through some of my stuff on here, book reviews and things I have referred to you, you really can really start your spiritual journey from there. Because I've provided a lot of lot of books here that could get you started, especially with ancestral veneration and understanding more about hoodoo. So I've put it here. It's here on the channel for you. But over there in Patreon, we put that all together. We make it make sense. We use the knowledge and wisdom of our ancestors, and we give it structure. And I help you understand the components of hoodoo, what it is, because it's so. And I went through that on my book review because when they looked at hoodoo is so interesting and why they had to write books on it and why what's her name? I'm probably gonna get this Zora Neale Hurston, you know, why what was so fascinating about it? Because it's mind boggling to people because the way the magic is put together. It's unusual to see folk magic like that and the different components that make hoodoo. When you understand the history of it and how our ancestors put it together. They knew how to put oomph on it. They had their way of putting oomph on it. And when you understand that, it's shocking to some people. And then too, when people are talk about it, and our ancestor was so smart, it's so many esoteric hidden meanings when people talk about it because if you're not in the culture, you're not going to understand what people are talking about. Laugh a lot. I just drove through her town yesterday. What town was that? What town was that? What town was that? The homeschooler. So you're not gonna understand that. It's very unique. That's why I like hoodoo. You look at it and you be thinking, oh, it's just folk magic, and then you look at closer look, you be like, wait a minute, there's more Eatonville. Eatonville. Where is that? You look at it and you be like, wait a minute, is this okay? I thought it was just this, but it's got this stuff you put in there too. Yeah, it's got that stuff you put in there too. That's what makes it's such a complex, beautiful spiritual practice. Where's Edenville? It's such a beautiful practice, especially when you see how vast it is and how it runs into voodoo and how you can you our ancestors are smart, we're able to work with various spiritual systems, not just one. You got some ancestors, they got the Hinduism up in there. They got some voodoo up in there. They got the saints up in there they working with. You're subject when you go somebody I see a hoodoo practitioner and tell them what spiritual system they've connected with because they learned the language of spirits. They have become a medium by way of their ancestors, and their ancestors have helped them to be able to work with other spiritual systems. I'm telling you, that's what I like about it. Now you're not gonna see that. You're not gonna see it. I think which one of those though? Is it voodoo or Ifa that had Cali in it? I can't remember, but I think one of them that threw me off because I was like, oh my gosh, Cali is in here. This is a religion. Why are they? Why is Cali in here? Has Cali running in this religion? I can't remember if it was Ifa or voodoo. I can't remember which one it was. But you subject to go in there and just see a whole bunch of spiritual system in hoodoo. Okay, so it is the you look at the initiation thing in a whole brand new light once you get into hoodoo. You be like, do I really need to initiate? What is this initiation all about? You really question initiation when you get into hoodoo because you like, what is the real reason for initiation? Why is it even needed? So, yeah, if you get deep in there and you really start understanding things and putting things together. And again, I have studied a long time. I have studied a lot of the ATRs, Ifa, Voodoo. Um, I've looked at all of them. All of them are beautiful, and all of them are ancestral. Okay, it's in Florida. That's Zora hometown. Okay, Edenton. Okay, that's her hometown, Edenville. Okay. I just knew she was from the South. I just knew she was from the down south. But I had to turn the air off. It be getting cold in here so fast. But once you look at Hoodoo and you look at the variety, it's so zesty. It's like a plate. To me, it's like a plate with different little things on it instead of just one meal that looks this way. That's the way I describe it, you guys. It just looks so flavorful. That's what I like about hoodoo. It looks so flavorful. You can do it the way that you're comfortable with, rather than voodoo or Ifa, because you have to do it the way they want you to do it. It's a religion, okay? They have aligned your ancestors with that religion. And for me, I was just like, no, I'm not doing that no more. I'm tired of folks telling me how to do stuff and I'm not doing that no more. I'm for liberation and freedom. And that's why I like hoodoo. I didn't get out of religion to jump right back in the frying pan of somebody telling me what to do. No, I didn't get into that for that. I think they're beautiful religions. From what I've heard, because I was wondering about that, because I see the patriarchy in voodoo and I see the patriarchy in Ifa. Uh, and talk about that for now, and I'll go back to hoodoo. But I was asking a practitioner. I was like, "Do y'all have those, patriarchy and misogyny issues up in there?" Because I mean, I do see the misogyny in there. She said, "Absolutely." And the men do not like me at all. They don't like me because I call it out, and I was like, "There's something that's in there. You like that?" Because I definitely saw the misogyny and that stuff in there, and when I look at those religions like that, whether people want to admit to it or not, because I see the patriarchy in there, I can't help but think that I see the essence of colonialism, you know, because that's where patriarchy comes from, a lot of it. So when I see that, then I see that up, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not feeling it. Yeah, y'all got the misogyny up in there. All y'all men up here gatekeeping. I just can't do it with you. I just won't do it with you. I get over here with my ancestors now. When you get over there on Patreon, I know a lot of people, they start off with the history and the Christian part of hoodoo. But I'm very clear about, you don't have to be practice hoodoo to be Christian, okay? And you don't have to be a Christian to practice hoodoo, okay? Because I seen too, when I hear people, some of these people are, it's sounding like religion. I've seen them. I'm like, the hoodoo is not a religion, so stop that. Stop trying to make hoodoo Christian. Hoodoo is not Christian. Okay? Stop Christianizing it. I seen some girl on TikTok that got into it with the creator Jasmine on there. That was the craziest thing, because I won't debate people with mental illness. When I see spiritually, the spiritual ignorance in Christianity, I don't even argue with it anymore, because I look at them as being mentally ill with you. Because you always trying to convert somebody, and then you'll hurt somebody in the name of your Jesus. Some of y'all will hurt somebody in the name of your Jesus, and swear you love Jesus. I can't with them. So I just don't go back and forth with some of them. Bless their heart, they still on their evolution journey. But honey, that girl, she went back and forth with Jasmine. She didn't know none of that Bible, and calling Jasmine a witch, and then I go down, see down her timeline, this girl is making conjure oils. Call them anointing oils. I said, look at that. And when y'all do it, y'all Christianize it. But when we do it, it's the devil. Make it make sense. The girl was straight making conjure oil. Call them anointing oils. Everything how we make our conjure oils, putting herbs in them, and rose petals and stuff in them. Like this girl doing it. But if Jasmine would have did, Jasmine is a witch. You gonna call her a witch. But when you do it, when y'all, I the insanity with them, the insanity. So I had to be very sure. It's the insanity and the audacity to think that you are sane doing something like that, and to be calling us that's spiritually insightful evil because you're ignorant. I just can't with them. I just refuse to go back and forth with somebody who is mentally ill like that. I can't. I just can't. And I did not like the fact that they were sitting up there. I said, why are you even debating somebody who is spiritually ill? They not even spiritually on your level. It's a waste of your time to even give them any of your time. I mean, it's just not worth it. It's like beating a dead horse. But what I've seen, people try to come in there with that Christianized hoodoo, and that's not that. That's not that. These are indigenous, ancestral, spiritual practices that hid up under Christianity. They are not Christian, although we use the psychic energy and the words in the Bible, the conjure, we use that as a conjure, a grimoire, as you may call it. Okay? We use that in a lot of our workings as a tool, but it's not Christian. So I'm seeing a lot of that too. You know, I'm seeing the component, and I have to say it. I have to say that because some people will focus so much on the Christian aspect of it And I think hoodoo can get watered down when we do that. So I'm very clear about that over there at Patreon. I dismantle a lot of things over there, especially when it comes to stripping out the misogyny and the decolonizing it. Because what I was finding in there, especially when you're learning more about conjure, we have a lot of these men writing these books, occult books, that and this knowledge was taken from women, later applied to men. So I did my best over there to strip away the misogyny and the decolonization. That's one reason why I'm still going forth about back and forth about Kabbalah, but I think I'm going to go ahead and talk about Kabbalah in there because it really is part of the hoodoo spiritual system. So at some point, I got to talk about it. But looking at Kabbalah and where it comes from, these rituals were created by men for men. I have to keep that in mind too, because these men came in and took this and they tweaked it for themselves. So I have to. I think it's my responsibility to be careful about how I'm presenting things. Yeah, the whole conversion. Yeah, Phoebe Nunday. So I have to be very careful about how I do that because I just don't want to repeat all the rhetoric that has been done, and even through my studies, it's just so annoying. I wish there were more. I wish it's starting to be more. We need more women writing occult books for women by women. We just don't have enough of them. We need more books. I can't say this enough. Whoever is a writer in here, you love spirituality. You write. We need more books, occult books for women by women because that's where it came from. And it's just it's so annoying to me that it's so difficult not unless you going into Wicca. And Wicca is a really a new matriarch religion because Wicca is a religion. And they do have some good information in there. But even when I go into Wicca sometime, going diving into Wicca, it starts to feel a little Christian. Okay, because it's based on the old pagan religion. And a lot of, I don't know if it's meant to be that way. I'm not sure. But I know some of the Wicca will start to feel a little Christian to me at some point. I don't know why I feel that way. I just do, you guys. And Wicca is not really what we see today. Wicca is today. It's fairly new in that sense, even though it's drawing on some of the midwife traditions and healing traditions of women, our ancient mothers. Is still very much new. Okay, and it is a religion. Okay, but when I go and see that, because I'm telling you, you do your own research, you get in there, and some most of the books. That's why I do book reviews in there. I do lectures in there over the book, so you'll have good takeaways. You know, of course, you're going to choose what works for you and what doesn't work. But I think context and perspective is very important when we are learning this information. That you got these men in here, they describing this stuff, and they just so full of themselves. I'm just so sick of them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. But after reading man after man after man, like, oh my gosh, ain't it enough that you in that Bible? I'm man, I'm man, I'm man. I've just never seen someone that just, so insecure they got to put themselves in everything. It gets annoying after a while because you are not the only created part. I mean, you're not the only. I mean, it's almost like they think they the only person. When I read some of this stuff, just I just can't. I'm just like, God, get over yourself. Get over yourself. It's like women did not exist. Like they wrote this stuff. It's like women didn't exist. And it's just annoying sometimes when I read some of these occult books. And I'm just like, you know what? I got to get off this because they just really uh, ticking me off. It's not all about you. And so, I just prayed about that to the ancestors. I said, we need more occult writers, and then some of the occult women writers, which I was reading Helen Blavatsky's some of her stuff, but I'm like, I gotta look at her because you're starting to sound like a pygmy because you were around a whole bunch of men. It wasn't that many women around in that Golden Dawn order, that Masonic order that they developed, the occult order they developed. So I have to look. I read some of her writings. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's such a pick me. Like she's picking bagging out these men. Do you have any independent thought about women? So you know, I don't know any women, and I'm sure there's out there because they plagiarized a lot of our writings. That's what a lot of these burning book burnings was about, to burn all that out. Um, but I would love to see more occult practices by women. Now, the closest book I've seen to that just really was just like, oh, this is dope. I like this. Was the book called Planetary Magic by Dennings and Phillips. I think I did a book review here on it. Love that book because they talk about the divine feminine. They talk about how to evoke or invoke these goddesses. That is the best book I think I have found that really dives into the divine feminine side of the occult. Even when I look through at Kabbalah, this is a type, and they talk about the tree of life. Well, when I'm looking at this tree of life, y'all are climbing up this tree of life to get to the divine feminine. So you needed this ritual. Do women, and then I have to question myself, do women really need Kabbalah? Because I know in some ATRs, women don't have to do the same thing as men do because women were born with divine intuition. We were born in the embodiment of God. We were born intuitive. So do we need to do this? The only time I think, I'm again, this how my spiritual mind be working, y'all, when I be having to break this stuff down and be careful in how I am relaying it back to you guys. But when I look at the Kabbalah, I look at that. I don't know how many other people that study the occult or the Kabbalah. When I look at that, I'm like, okay, y'all had to create this in order to interface with the divine feminine. It's called Kabbalah. You will see it under Jewish mysticism. It'll probably be up under Jewish mysticism. That's their form of occult or esoteric knowledge. And remember who else was studying that? Madonna. Madonna was studying the occult. She was studying the Kabbalah. So she was going through a Jewish priest to help her understand how these energies show up in her everyday life. That was she was talking about that. If you ever remember her talking about that, that's what that is. It's just a form of Jewish mysticism. Oh, the planetary alignment book. It's called Planetary Magic by Denning and Phillips. It should be. I did a book review here on the channel here. But that book is by Denning and Phillips. I love the I think that is the best book when it comes for women working with the divine feminine and working with those energies, archetypes. That's a great book. That's the closest because the rest of them, I've just seen men talk about themselves. I just don't want to hear about you, sir. I just don't. We already know that you wasn't here first. We already know. It's just to me, it's just repeating the ignorance, and I'm trying my best to get away from it. But yet, y'all have went out your way to create these books that don't even apply to you. It's just, get over yourself. It does, Rain. It does. It's annoying. I just had to take a step back and be like, I'm just so, I had to put some of them books down and say, Lord, these damn books, these damn men, they stole everything from women. They mad because they ain't women, and then they went out of their way. If they just knew how sad they look, you know what I'm saying? That you look so damn sad. You look so damn sad. I mean, sad. You just and it looks like an infiltration of our consciousness when every book I pick up, a cup book I pick up is written by a man. And the things that you're talking about in these books don't even come from you. And then I hear all this man I do and when you read a lot of them, they're doing a lot of mansplaining. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just so I just gotta put this book down because uh for me when the great mother start coming up in me, she'd be like, put that shit down. These men, girl, they is lying. That's how I be. My grandmother be like, girl, put that shit down. They is lying. You know that shit, girl. These a whole bunch of thieves and liars. Put it down. And that's what I do. And that comes up in me because again, that's our divine intuition. That's our feminine energy. Because women, we already know some of this shit. We already know. So when it's feel off to us, we be like, it will come up and you just know it's not you. Because if you connected with your divine feminine and you did your healing and your them because them great mothers gonna come through you. It don't matter because all of us have a common women have a common ancestor. We all come from that black woman, whether we want to admit that or not. And she is all in our genetic coding. That's why we do what we do. That's why we act the way we act. That's why men so scared of us when we just intuitively know when they're doing something they ain't got no business doing. You understand me? So they don't have that. They're scared of that. They try to keep us so disconnected about that. I think the best book to read for you to understand that. I read what is called Mama Wati. I read that book, The Sybil. Those are two good books to read, and the Great Cosmic Mother. That they just blew it out the water with that. I was just outdone. I was just because you're in that book. I mean, you see the way they destroyed the matriarch empires when you read the Sibyls, when you read Mama Wata, Prophetess Unveil, when you read those books, but when you go and read Cosmic Mother, because of they put so many details in this. I just love that book. You just know it was divinely written. They're letting you know that these men did psychological tests on women to keep humans trapped on Earth. I'm just gonna put it like that in a nutshell. They knew exactly what they were doing. When it comes to Carl Jung, when it comes to Sigmund Freud, the psychologist, they They knew exactly what they were doing to keep the divine feminine suppressed, and how they tried to discredit. They made it their business that women that got in those sort of fields, like psychology and all that stuff, they were railroad these women because they didn't want this insight to come to light. But really, when you're looking at Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, they were helping keeping the divine feminine suppressed on this. They were helping that. And they were helping take control of our portals so we can keep bringing souls in here for them to exploit and trap. And then that's what I got out of when they was telling they brought that. Think that was a smoking gun for me. I was like, oh my gosh. So these men, they actually studied us. They this is why they spend so much money in our fashion, uh making sure that we're wearing makeup, looking good for them. They spend a lot of money to psychologically exploit women. Okay? And when you understand this, because the more I start looking at and the great mother started dealing with me when I wrote my book, Matriarch the Patriarch, and I dived into this because I peeled back a lot of stuff too, just writing that book. The closer I looked at racism, the more I realized racism was a cover up uh, for genderism. It's cover up. I mean, you said, damn, this shit ain't even about race. This really is about keeping the divine feminine suppressed because if she wake up, all this stops. So the racism is nothing but a smoke and mirror for the gender war that is continuing to go on women, especially women of color, but all women are in jeopardy of this because again, man world doesn't exist without control of our portals. This is why they want to they want to outlaw abortion. They want to pump us to have children because you don't have nobody control. If nobody bringing nobody in through these portals for you, having children for you, you ain't got nobody control. You don't have no world that exists where you're the ruler. You understand me? See how that plays out? I remember my grandma say, boy, them old folks know they know they smart. My grandma said, you don't buy no food. You ain't got to worry about nobody going to the bathroom, and you gonna have plenty of toilet paper. I said, what? But she understood. They know the workings of things. You understand me? And so women start closing down their portals. It is over for them. It's just that said that time that this portal, this tiny hole between our legs run the whole world, and they do not want you to know that. They work hard psychologically dumbing women down so we would never find out about that. But the plan doesn't work. They can't control the portals and they can't get more souls in here to feed their ego because they're the leaders or whatever. Um, It doesn't work. And women are waking up and saying, no, I'm gonna use my portal to come in here to bring folks in here for you to be doing this stuff too. Nobody, no, I'm not doing that. Women saying no. And I don't blame them for that. Again, that's the great mother working through us again. And like I talked about that, women are gonna be nesting in opposite. You know how a woman nests when she have a baby? With this time, the great mother is putting in us to take accountability, and in the other way, we're starting to do self love and undo a lot of this trauma that was done to us. And men don't like that either. They pissed off at women. You got some of these. They got these lonely. They said these men in the lonely men epidemic now. So you got some of these men. They mad about that. You know. So let them be mad. But this was bound to happen because you have oppressed women for longer than slavery. You think slavery was bad. You can't imagine what they did to women to put patriarchy in place. It makes it makes the Holocaust look like a circus or a picnic compared to what they had to do to women to put patriarchy in place. They're not gonna tell you that. What you think they talking about in that Bible? Who you think they unaliving? You think they marrying women in that Bible? No, they're marrying children. They're marrying children. Yeah, that's who they marrying. They was unaliving. What you think that witch hunt things was about? They didn't want those kind of midwives and powerful spiritual women. That thing about Medusa, they didn't want them women around there. They was getting rid of them. That's what this is all. That's what that was all about. They tell you, oh, they was persecuting Christians. Now one Christian died. That don't even make sense. That story don't even make sense. You weren't unaliving Christians. You was unaliving the matriarch culture to put in Christianity. But again, you'll see that too with the patriarchs. You can always tell it's a lie. If they saying they the victim, they lying. They always play the victim in something. You see that too when those patriarchs took over with Abraham. They say they was enslaved in Egypt. No, you wasn't. You were not a slave. You was mad because them our great mothers didn't want you to take over. So you got mad with your patriarch religion and you left there. That's what happened there. So again, that mansplaining would happen. And when the man tell a story, he don't never tell the whole story. You know. And some of us are taking it. You actually think a man gonna tell you the whole truth? You actually think a man gonna tell you the whole truth? He done stole stuff from you. No. you know when you start looking at it from that perspective too. But a lot of people haven't made it that far on their journey. They haven't decolonized a lot of this. They have not moved out of racism and look behind racism and see what's really going on there. They're still caught up in these false perceptions. So it takes a while. And I understand it takes a while to peel all this back because we've been living in an illusion for so long. you know But that's what that is. You have to decolonize that stuff. You got to get that stuff out of there. So I make sure I'm very specific about that going into that. And, I don't know how men gonna feel about it. You see some men waking up to the truth. Then you have some of them too. They still got that sick mind where they want to rule and lead and want women to serve them. I don't even get that shit. I don't get that. So maybe because I didn't, a little bit more, I done grew a lot more. I don't know. But a lot of them not ready to unpack that. And so I'm very careful on the Patreon platform where I decolonize that. But I know I'm gonna have to go on talk about Kabbalah. But Kabbalah is very interesting to me because on the back of the tree of life is supposed to be uh the spirits of the dead, and they say that's where the ancestors are. What they call it, the Quithpath is supposed to be the dark side of the tree, and that's where the dead is. That's where the ancestors is. So, and a lot of people say, "Oh, we don't like to go into that part because it's the dark side and all that." But once you start studying the dark side of the tree, you start to understand too. It looks like the tree of life was born from the dark side of the tree when you start to look at some of it. Okay, because they said the ancestors is on the back of the tree when you go to um on the back side of it. But that's for more advanced people that's studying the Kabbalah, because a lot of people don't like to get into the that part of it. They just go to the tree of life and they call it Kabbalah. And again, it is called Jewish mysticism. And these are ritual, what they call, they sort of like shamanic rituals, meditation rituals that they use to connect with these frequencies and energies on the tree. They broke that down like that. Now, the questions I have to ask when I'm reading this, because I read when I'm reading this, is where did you get that from and who showed you how to do that? Because again, they stole everything from women, so I have to ask these questions. Critical thinking has to come in at some place. What, who showed you that? Who gave you that? And why do you have to go through all that to get to the divine feminine? What's wrong with you? I have to ask these questions. I have to ask these questions like this when I look at Kabbalah. So many questions went through my mind when I studied Kabbalah and review it. And I've studied that for maybe about 5 or 6 years, and it still brings up a lot of questions. It still brings up a lot of questions, but you do your own research when it comes to Kabbalah. I don't know if I did a book review here about it before. I don't think I have. But me, I dive deep into the occult. I like studying things and then asking myself critical questions. I don't just take it for what it is, you know. And really, you find a lot of answers behind those questions of what how you feel about things and what you should be doing, what works best for you. But Kabbalah, because these were men, these patriarchs stole all of this stuff from women. I question Kabbalah because you have these men trying to work with a religion that's divine feminine. And so they had to tweak it so they'll be able to do it. It's even certain names they can't say because they're men. It's certain names and spirits they can't work with because they're men. Yeah. Uh-huh. Because to mention some of these names, to them it would be detrimental. And so some of these energies, that's why they had to get rid of a lot of these spirits and uh uh labeled them as demons and all that stuff, because most of these spirits was aligned with the matriarch spiritual structure, for a lack of a better term. I'm gonna use that. And so a lot of these men, they could not work with a lot of these energies, so they had to tweak it. So I really have to ask, like, where did that come from? Okay. Where you see the Pope today, the Pope is wearing divine feminine clothing. You go look at the high priestess in your tarot card deck. You go look at the empress in your tarot card deck, and there you see the Pope. He is wearing a dress. He is mimicking the divine feminine. He has to wear that dress. That's a part of if you're going to be in that position, you have to wear the dress. That's a dress. That's not a robe. That's women attire. Let me be absolutely clear with you. Women were the first priestess. He is acting like a woman. He has to do, you know what I'm saying? He has to mimic again. He has to cosplay, cross dress. That's what he's doing. Does he know damn well that's not where he supposed to be? He know damn well he stole that authority. He know damn well that's a dress he wearing. And that's the ritual attire that's customary for the divine feminine high priestess order that they took over. So when you see him dressed like that, you're seeing him cross dress. That's how I look at. That's what he doing. But he wants to admit that or not, the history is there. The historical records are there. Okay, they stole that all from divine feminine and then make themselves look like victims. So you know, uh, I have a lot of mixed feelings about that. You have a lot of mixed feelings about that, but make sure you're looking at his attire because you're seeing echoes of a divine feminine there. Go look at your tarot deck and look at look at the high priestess in the deck and the empress. That's what he is mimicking. They playing in your face when they do this. Because if you don't know, a lot of people don't know, and until you start, diving into things and peeling things back, you won't know. And I think that's important. Just because you spiritual don't mean you're supposed to be ignorant. That's what got us on the spiritual side because we didn't want to be ignorant. So knowing the nature of things are important too. So when I look at Kabbalah and I look at these men, I'm just like, I don't think we need that. I think that's for you, sir. It makes sense that you would need that because if you stole something, you wouldn't know how it worked with you. You would have to make up something to help you work with it, right? So that's what that looks like to me. That's just my perspective. You might have a different perspective, but I've studied it for a while and I can't help but ask myself these questions. Where did you get it from and why do you need it? You need all this to get to philosophy, to wisdom. Y'all need to go all through this to get to some wisdom, to get some sense, to get to access any virtues such as compassion, love, and forgiveness. You mean you got to go through all this? That ain't in you like that? I have to ask them, y'all got to go through all that. There's something definitely wrong with you. If you don't naturally feel compassion, you don't naturally feel love, you don't feel that maternal energy in you like that, something is wrong with you. That's just my take on it. Y'all can take that whatever way you want to take it, but you do your own research. And I do. You look at it for yourself and you tell me what it is. Because again, you have to remember who these Jews was, who these Jews were marrying, and you see them being paired up with these women. And without these women, even the prophet Muhammad, they don't talk about that either in Islam. He wouldn't have never had the momentum he had to bring in Islam without his wife Khadijah, because Khadijah was the high priestess. And Allah was known as Alat, a woman. See, they learned all this stuff from women and then tweaked it and turned it into man stuff. That's what they did. I talked about that book in my book, Matriarch the Patriarch. And go back and look at the Bible. It's something when you're reading it, they only talk about men. But when they get to these women, look at that now. They had to put those women in that Bible to give them status, spiritual status, because these women already had it. They were already priestess. And they knew in the ancient world by pairing with these women or saying they were pairing with these women, that gave some of them spiritual status. Because you're looking at a book that was written by men and they're going to mention women, it's because they had no choice. They had no choice. They have no choice. Because without mentioning these women, they don't have spiritual status because women had the real spiritual status. They were the real high priestess. They was the one that knew all the rituals. Even, go back and look at it. You look at it from different eyes. Maybe hearing me talk, you can go back and look at that and you be like, damn, you see it now. Some you missed it. Now you see it because you're able to see it from another perspective. It'll make more sense. But like I said, be careful with those books because those men are writing that book for them by them. And then a lot of these Masonic rituals, occult rituals, you'll see that with P. Diddy and what's the girl name? What's the girl name? Cassie. They abuse these women. That's what you're seeing up in this Masonic stuff. That's what that's really all about. The core to most of that is suppressing the divine feminine. Because they're not even supposed to be doing that. Women supposed to be doing that. But the core of the occult, that's why you have a high, all-time high of trafficking, human trafficking, and the stuff going on with pedophilia and stuff, because their job is to suppress the divine feminine. That's what the core of that occult Masonic stuff is about. The core to that is that. Look how P Diddy was doing Cassie. They get something out misusing our energy. It does something for them spiritually, energetically. When they suppress our energy and then use it to harness it for whatever they have going on. That's how they've been using our portals and our you know, our sexual energy, so to speak. Okay. Well, y'all, it's getting late over here. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Did anyone have any questions for me? Any questions about what I talked about? Hoodoo, um, healing? Any questions? I'll give you a few minutes to ask me any questions. Some of y'all shy in here. Y'all want me to talk, but y'all shy. I see 9 people in here, honey. I think some of y'all shy. Don't be shy. I ain't gonna bite you, honey. I want to hear what you got to say. Y'all have any questions for me, especially when it comes to hoodoo or anything I just talked about here? Okay, you guys, let me tell you what's going on. You can follow me on TikTok. You can follow me here. I don't think I have an Instagram or Facebook anymore. I got sick of Instagram and Facebook. It was just getting to I don't know, the vibe wasn't there. It was turning, Instagram turned into a modeling something. I don't know what Instagram turned. Facebook started looking like a whole bunch of, I feel like there's too many monitoring spirits on there. It just falls flat. So I'm out. Chemistry is not on Facebook. It's not on Instagram either, but you can follow me on TikTok. Uh, you can follow me here. Yeah, it is a lot of information to take in. Just, honey, when I was sitting there taking in, when the great mother had laid that out, especially when I wrote the book Matriarch the Patriarch, because nobody was talking about the divine feminine then. And I said, I cannot, because I wrote a thesis on it. And I said, I told the great mother, people are not ready for this information. She said, write the book anyway, because they're going to be talking about this. This is going to be all over because women going to be waking up. And I be damn. Within this past, 2 or 3 years, it has been a hot topic to women. And I don't know why the ancestors do me like that. I look crazy when I be telling people stuff, because sometimes, and I think that about revolutionary seers and prophets. This is why people thought they was crazy, because they could see things other people can see, and then when people talked about it, they sound crazy. I sounded crazy. I had put all those dots together. I sounded crazy when I was talking about it, but here we go. What was that? Wrote that book in 2015, 2016. Here we go. 10 years later, it's a hot topic. And that's usually what happens with me. I notice one thing about when I have these revelations, they usually be like 5 or 10 years ahead. Just like I predicted the stuff with the school loans. When that stuff started popping off, I said this gonna be a disastrous. And now it became an issue after that, even with that housing thing. So it's something how, uh, you know, it's something how you could just see things and other people just can't see. And you learn to keep your mouth closed too. That's another reason why I learned to keep my mouth closed. So I don't talk about certain things because I don't want. it's still a lot of things I want to talk about. I can't even talk about it here because a lot of y'all think I'm crazy. So I just don't talk about them. The ancestors just say, keep your mouth shut. You say this right here and then don't say nothing else. So I'll say little things and then I won't say nothing else. I don't want you coming out on the bag on me because you can't see. Oh, you're welcome. So if you have any questions, I'll be coming back here again, providing, keep your questions. So if you have any questions, anything you want to know about spirituality, it's not complicated. You can start from right where you are. Healing is the best way to start. Okay. Because you find out more about you, you run into spirit, you run into yourself. So that's the best place to start. Okay, good night, you guys. Thank you for being here. And again, you can follow me on TikTok. You can follow me here. I think I'm on Lemonade too. And Red Note. I'm on Red Note too. So good night, you guys.